Hey.
Hey, Spencer.
Hello, how's your Thursday?
I'm doing okay. I just got back from the dentist.
Yeah, that's never fun, at least for me.
Yeah, like the right side of my face is still numb. I got a filling.
So I'm not seeing many people yet. I know there's a few conflicts for like Laurent and Brian, but can just give people a few more minutes. All right, I'm not gonna wait too much longer. There's not many people here. I think, we all know each other. So names and attendees, no new faces. In terms of project and individual updates, first for All-Star, Jeff, if you want to talk about this PR.
Yeah, don't need a big discussion here, but I wanted to call it out that I've been working on a contributing MD. I saw that we didn't have the code of conduct in All-Star, so I copied that from another OpenSSF repo. So I got that there as part of the contributing MD, links to the Slack channel and things like that. And then the other main thing is the contributor ladder. So this was I had it as a proposal for a while, and we had some discussion on the issue. Actually, I didn't link the issue from the PR. Let me do that now. And then, yeah, just wanted to put that out there for any comments. Leave it on the issue. Other than that, I'm working on some quick start updates and some other documentation updates that we've identified that we want to make sure is up to date, like our change log or what's new, things like that.
Cool. Yeah, which is a great segue for the scorecard. Again, not really much of a discussion, but more just a point of awareness where there's one issue from last month where some of the website checks have fallen out of sync. Some broken links, things like that. So sort of sat down and checked more of the scorecard documentation, whether that's the README, the scorecard action, the scorecard web app, or the website contents itself. So I can make an issue about some of these stale docs we found and sort of plans to freshen them up so that new contributors are able to see the documentation without any of the knowledge that's just gained through time kind of thing. But yeah, outside of that, I don't think we have too much on the agenda proper. I noticed we had one more person join the meeting. Jeremy, if you want to, usually we have new faces introduce themselves. What you're hoping to get out of the meeting, or just say hello.
Hey y'all, I'm Jeremy Katz from Tidelift. We've been doing some stuff with scorecards, and I finally actually was able to clear my calendar to go this time. The constant juggling challenge. I'll add myself to the agenda in a second.
Welcome, Jeremy.
Yeah, always good to have people.
Yeah, welcome, Jeremy. I mean, as you can see, normally at this meeting, we have, updates for Scorecard All-Star, like project updates, and then agendas usually if we need a discussion item for maybe a bug or feature that, we want to achieve consensus on, or, if people have proposals for new checks or new best practices.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, it looks like the agenda is pretty light. I can throw something on there just to have some sort of discussion, but I don't think we'll end up taking the whole hour or anywhere close to it. But there was a PR where right now we run all the sort of light and heavy tests on every commit and running into like big rate limiting issues. So if we just look at the action tabs right now, there comes a point where like a lot of these are failing and these are all API failures and things like that. So briefly tried to separate it out into light tests and heavy tests, unit and integration. And yeah, we had to roll it back a little where certain triggers don't have access to repository secrets. So this is still a CI/CD improvement I'd like to see. And there are a few ways to do it. So just something to play around with. Any comments on the issue are great. Yeah, just sort of wanted to bring it up. I don't really think it's something that would be a great discussion topic, but it seems we're always limited on our CI/CD pipeline.
Do you mind popping that issue into the agenda just so we have it on the Is there stuff that we need to unblock? I mean, I know that we're limited in our maintainer count today, but to see if there's anything that we potentially need to unblock.
I think the biggest blocker right now is that the scorecard cron has sort of taken that hiatus. And as far as I know, it's still being worked out in terms of proper ways to move forward. I would say that besides that, Laurent's structured results PR is still being worked on, and is sort of like a fundamental change to how I can put a little comment still welcome on. But yeah, a lot of feedback from people in the past about why these structured results would be beneficial. So just sort of re-inviting feedback. Seems like we've had quite a few comments, but just trying to solidify people's opinions and get this merged in.
Yeah, I'll check in as well. I just wanted to let the conversation settle out a little bit. I think, I'm still of the mind around the serif formatting, like that it would be good to get something that is minimum viable serif. But I mean, especially in the face of potentially introducing yet another format to consider, right? So that's my big comment. But I do need to check back in on where he landed with this.
Yeah, I think I still need to make my comment, but after last sync, left some thoughts on supporting, serif directly. They should be on here somewhere, where serif is expressive enough that I think we can. I'm not sure where my comment was. It should have been to this PR.
I think it might be stuck in I think there are a lot of comments to the point where it might be trapped, and hidden.
Yeah, but it is a very expressive standard that overlaps a lot with what we're trying to do. So I think at the very least, even if we do sort of have our next version of JSON format, like if that's the v3 format or the extended JSON or something like that, having these rule-based results can be used to augment the existing serif we have.
Yeah.
So I tried to compare what we have in our current format where, there's some sort of information about when and what it's being run on and how. And then sort of these checks is where the individual rules would be in our format, and all of these have a corresponding serif output, whether that's, the start time of the invocation, just a miscellaneous property bag to handle everything that serif doesn't necessarily do when we're talking about scorecard specific stuff. So the commit and sort of describing the scorecard binary used to do the check. There are objects that talk about the tool doing the analysis in serif. Yeah, the checks with Laurent's example. Just a lot of overlap between the roles. So yeah, a lot of people still out this meeting, so I'm not sure how much discussion can be had, but I know this week I'm gonna try to finalize some of my thoughts on it and get a review out there and sort of see if we can't merge it in and get a consensus.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, dumb question maybe. Because we have to dump it as we have to dump our output as serif anyway. I mean, if people are picking it up on scorecard action. So how far are we between the results that we're producing today and what this is proposing?
Yeah, I don't think that Laurent's PR modifies. So all the serif is done in the package. So he does modify it. Be this one. Yeah, doesn't look like any substantial changes. So it'd be interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of this just looks like package refactoring. I think, yeah, I think, you know, as long as what we're getting out of the other side is still close enough to what we have today, I'm pretty fine with it. But if it would be great if what we were outputting before it gets kind of massaged for GitHub was just Serif or some minimal stuff. So yeah, I do need to sit down and dig through that one.
Right.
Just going back for a second, because I know like my headphones were doing weird stuff while you were talking about it, but the doc freshness, is that only happening on the website right now?
So some people at Google sat down and sort of just evaluated pretty much any README that we had in terms of at Scorecard, whether that was the README about how to contribute, how to install, how to run, how to add a new check, that sort of stuff. The documents on the Scorecard action repo, mainly just the installation instructions and sort of the README on that page, and then both the Scorecard web app in terms of contributing to the web app and sort of how it's set up and how to run the site, as well as the website contents itself. So the issue that I linked is just sort of talking about the website, but
because I would say arguably we, you know, in an ideal state, we just have all of the docs in one place, right? And we're like, okay, here, go generate the website based on this folder or so on. I know that there were some revisions to the website that I know it doesn't quite pick up off of the content from the README. So how can folks help?
So I think the best way would be to take a look at the issue whenever this gets posted. I'll work with Kara to get some of the notes from that sync posted in terms of these are what we've identified as stale docs, and sort of from that point, you know, people can pick up what needs to be freshened.
That's good. I think in general too, because this is an open source project, we should strive to do those kinds of meetings in public with all of the other contributors instead of as a Google meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think right now, being January, we can sort of have like some sort of discussion, whereas if we're doing a freshness as a community sort of thing right now, when would the next time we'd want to talk about it? And is that like 6 months out kind of thing? So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I think figuring out like what freshness means to us and how we can kind of like guard against staleness in the first place, talking about that as a group, and I think, you know, at least starting with the outputs of that meeting that can be shared publicly, and then maybe I think 6 months sounds like the right target to check in again, if we've got kind of actionable things falling out of that, out of this issue. But hopefully like we're, you know, what we're focusing on in that 6 months is guarding against staleness as opposed to planning the next check-in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely makes sense to me to sort of have that happen as a community kind of thing. So Yeah, having a single source of truth would be good so that we don't have to sort of keep the website and the scorecard checks and all that sort of thing in sync. So
Yeah, I feel like this is I've been bumping into this in a few other projects too, where it's like, where do we put our docs? Where do we put the contributing docs? Where do we put the developing docs? And should we have some script that runs between these repos to generate the site and yada yada yada? It would be great if it was. I feel like in ways there are it is a solved problem, but how to solve it is a good question. Because like ideally these docs never go out of sync because they're just feeding from the same source.
yeah, and at the very least, having some permalinks so that we at least link based on, I don't know, hash contents so that we don't end up with broken links would be cool. But
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is. I mean, this issue too. I think is a great getting started, good first issue, or at least chunks of it could be a good first issue. Even why I would stress the importance of making sure that we get all of the content into this issue.
all right. Well, unless anyone else has anything else, I think the agenda has been pretty covered and the updates.
So sorry, my headphones again were messed up at the beginning. But Jeff, is there any help that you need on the All-Star side?
Just what I mentioned there about if anybody has feedback on the contributor guidelines. Other than that, I'm really just looking at similar things, some docs, but I don't have a good list right now, so nothing that I can that's there. But other than that, everything's like running pretty smoothly, and there's obviously plenty of feature requests, but that are good first issues, but nothing
Okay.
urgent.
Yeah.
No
Are
bugs.
your okay? Are your help wanted and good first issues up to date?
Yes.
Great. So I guess talk announcements for us. We've got Naveen is going to be speaking at State of OpenCon coming up in London, February 7th and 8th. If anyone is heading out to that. I will be, and that'll be on Scorecard. I mentioned it in the Scorecard meeting. Scorecard. And I'll be speaking at Philly Emerging Tech in April, I believe. Also on Scorecard. I'm gonna take. I'm gonna try to break it down from the perspective of someone who might be evaluating a project for outbound open source contribution. Say like you've got an OSPO or something, you're doing a review. How can Scorecard help you? But really, it'll start with a deep dive of Scorecard, and I think I'll try to take that lens to make it interesting. So.
Do we have anything next week at Cloud Native Security Con in Seattle?
I don't know. I'm not going to that one. But let me check the schedule real quick. I would imagine we would. Hold on.
Ryan was speaking with Naveen there too. No.
Yeah, I think Brian and Naveen are possibly speaking at that one.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, I'll be there. It's my hometown.
Nice.
Not speaking though.
Yes. How do you trust open source software, Naveen and Brian?
There we go.
So this is, let me just drop this in the chat. Awesome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting seeing the discussion on API calls, how sort of API freshness is slowly becoming a problem as the cron is blocked a little bit. So
And do we have something filed for that? I know that we know it's an issue. Do we have something filed for it though?
yeah, I think there's some discussion with GitHub on next step forward. Yeah, I think Azim could talk more to it, but
Gotcha.
I wanted to like raise the thing of like I wanted to talk a little bit about Semver. So like versioning. This is the thing that's not super clear in our checks today. We have like checks for a variety of things in Scorecard, and then once those like they have a raw component which has an output format that we change kind of at will, and then like there's scores which we also you know we can change those. Typically we just make like we just like fix the score. We don't change the way that scores are calculated, but we don't have like guarantees around either of these. So was gonna propose that maybe we like think about this and like how we yeah, like how we version this stuff, and like maybe just like put a statement about like scoring staying consistent or inconsistent within a particular version. So if
Yeah.
anyone has thoughts on this, yeah.
So yeah, so Raghav, I opened this issue a while back, and it is worth touching on again. Every now and again, I will bang the drum on are we doing Semver, or are we not doing Semver? If not, we should post something about what our guarantees are. So I think it's worthwhile for the maintainers to really sit down and make a decision on this. I think each time that it comes to the meeting, we're kind of like, we should talk about it, but we should talk about it and make a call. I think Semver makes sense. I know that for All-Star, we are not doing Semver, right?
So you mean, yeah, just throwing out there. So the code that All-Star calls as a library doesn't need to be like, I'm fine with it not being Semvered. I think the discussion was, do we want the API and the results to be Semver and not worry about the library that's being exposed to All-Star?
So
Maybe the next step is like make a proposal and put it in Slack for everyone to read.
yeah, it would be great to have your thoughts on that open issue, just to kind of build up like, hey, we need this, we don't need this, and what you're kind of looking for out of a proposal. If you want to be involved in drafting the proposal too, that would be cool.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
And just one
Alright, I
more
think
comment, sorry, on the Semver thing. I'm pretty sure that the Scorecard project wants to be able to announce major versions, even if there's no breaking change, for the purpose of drawing attention. So
the marketing
Yeah.
version, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll still probably say like we're doing Semver, but not exactly.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even if it is, even if the purpose of the version bump is for marketing, that's fine, right? We can say no breaking changes. I think the problem is the inverse. If we have you know, a new minor and there are breaking changes within it that
Yeah,
have not been
absolutely.
signaled in some way. right?
Completely agree, but some people will get grumpy if you doing the other way too.
Yeah.
If you don't call it out.
if I were to like give my quickest pitch for what it should be, it would just be any change to raw results or scoring that isn't like a bug fix. Like it's not like you're scoring something like that, like a scoring change that would require a change of documentation or something. Either of those should trigger a minor version bump.
Yeah.
I think a scoring change should be a major version bump.
I mean, I was
I
going to say,
think
arguably,
adding-
it's a major
yeah.
change. Yeah.
I think adding a new score or check would be a minor version bump, or adding additional information to the raw results would be a minor version. But yeah, changing anything would be a major.
So like one thing that I'm thinking of during this discussion is like we had Scott improve sort of the security policy where before it was, is the file there? And now it's, is the file there? And like, is there an email? And does it mention like more than just the email? So like some sort of quality check.
Right.
Do you view that as like a minor or like?
So I
Yeah,
would view that as a major, honestly. So
Yeah.
because if you're changing how the quality of the check is determined, ultimately you're changing the output, right? So I would consider, like we say across X amount of checks, we've decided that, our policy needs to be relaxed in these, in these kind of axes, right? This is a major version bump. Additional changes to these policies maybe maybe tweaking of the tweaking of like the scale of severity for for reporting or something. But I think being able to say consistently like, hey, we're changing this to be a bit more be a bit more relaxed in the resulting and the results reporting. That would be a major change to me. And I know that we've kind of been, I think we've been doing it under the covers in some places.
I mean, to me, it kind of feels like almost every change could be considered a major change, which is then why Calver and the like are sometimes more helpful. Is you don't get into the, is it a major change or not?
That's very true. And
Yeah,
maybe
Like
that
if you,
is, yeah, maybe
it-
that
but
is
it-
more useful to us, right? I know that GitHub has just switched over to Calver.
yeah, because it is that like what changes are there going to be that are meaningful that don't pass that bar of like, oh well, this could be considered a breaking change if you look at it some way.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think a way, I mean, when you get more mature, a way to counteract that is to have like a new check be not be like in a beta or something like that. So
Yeah.
you could have
Feature
checks
flagged
that
or-
are okay to change the value or change the calculation as they're being developed and still being released.
And yeah, and I think definitely check out this issue because I talk about some of that. We do have feature flags, sort of, right? I don't think we're necessarily consistent about when things get into them when we drop those environment variables or something, that when this is like a core, like this is core functionality now. We're not really consistent about that. So yeah, overall, I think we need to make a decision here. Calver is completely fine by me in some way if we say like, okay, we know that maybe we're doing a quarterly quote unquote major, right? And that's when all the fun stuff is coming in. Or yeah, I mean ultimately we just need a way of like whatever the versioning system looks like, as long as we have a way of guarding against potentially hazardous changes.
Yeah, I think that discussion's easy for something like the scorecard, just CLI, and gets really complicated for the API that uses, either the crowdsourced scorecard action or, just the cron job where like it starts becoming unmaintainable to run, like 10 different API versions at the same time on a million repos and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when the API like produces an output, or like when the cron produces an output that's stored for the API to later retrieve, that's like the same as like the raw result format, right? It's like exactly the raw result format.
I think it's the final output that gets stored. So whatever resulting JSON, and not necessarily the raw results.
Okay. So do we expect that like within one run of the cron, assuming no crowdsourced scorecard results, there's a single version of the scorecard API, like scorecard CLI running, right?
In terms of how it works today, yes. Every week that the results are run, it's all using the same, roughly the same scorecard version. There's a little bit of an asterisk there in terms of how the stable build is determined and if there's crashes midway through the week. But yeah.
Got it. So like it sounds like one of the challenges there is that like we're like interleaving potentially like cron results that come from latest version at time, or like latest stable version at time of at this cron schedule time, with any version at any time that could be coming from the crowdsourced action.
It sounds like we need a shim of some sort, right? Like to ensure that results are always of some certain type when being used on the cron side.
Yeah, I think a lot of the cron discussion can sort of not be tabled, but it would be a lot more meaningful once the whole
We need everybody here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
people here and tokens and things like that.
In that case, I think we might be wrapped.
Yeah, I think we had a meaningful discussion where there was a pretty empty agenda beforehand. So thank you, everyone. Only remaining thing is picking a facilitator for, it's going to be in February. I'm terrible at math when it's, I think it's the 9th.
12th? Or yeah, I'm also terrible at math. Hold on. Let me check the calendar.
So
It looks like the 9th. I will be away, unfortunately.
yeah, so if there's any volunteers, or I might just get Laurent back. He was supposed to be today's moderator, but had a conflict. I'm just going to put him down, and if it changes, I'm sure one of the
Yeah, we can
maintainers
check in next week as
set it
well.
up.
Yeah, and just swap. Cool. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you everyone for the time.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks,
Right.
Phil.